again, everyone. My name is Juniper and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be doing Witchy Wonders episode 8, and I'm going to be talking all about how to create and cast your own spells. Just in case you're wondering why I'm wearing the exact same outfit that I did last week, it's because I'm filming 2 videos in one day. I'm actually going to be moving next week, so I wanted to get everything caught up so I won't have to worry about filming and editing during moving week. But hopefully the next time you'll see me, I'll be in a new location, and I am super excited for that. So let's talk about spells. But first, coffee. I know for a fact by now that I've got a problem, but it's just so good. It's so good! So let's jump right into today's episode. First off, I should probably answer the question, what exactly is a spell? As I may have mentioned,
Volt, you're fine. Hi, Misu. I'll be out in a second.
As I may have mentioned in a few of my previous videos, spells are essentially a way to raise magical energies with a specific intent and release that out into the universe. To put it simply, you basically just need your intentions and energies to cast a spell. Something as simple as a prayer or a chant with intention is considered a spell. Some people choose to practice casting spells with just only their intent and energies, either because they're in the broom closet and might not have access to the ingredients required to cast a spell, or some people actually just prefer it that way. Either way, it's totally fine and just as effective. Many of us, however, do like to cast our spells using tools, candles, crystals, herbs, incense, oils, and any other magical items. This is essentially just to kind of add a little extra boost into our spells and to kind of just make it more creative and magical. Some common spells that you can cast would be for protection, prosperity, healing, self-love, overcoming struggles, or attracting something new into your life, essentially. Really, the possibilities for what you would like to cast a spell for are endless. But it is important to remember that spells are not a cure-all. Like I said in a previous video, I believe it was episode 1, where I said that you can't just cast a spell and then sit on your ass and wait for the magic to happen. You have to go out there and happen. Basically, what I'm saying is that you already need to be putting all of the effort into whatever it is you're trying to accomplish that you possibly can. If you're sitting on your ass, the universe isn't necessarily going to respond because it will probably think that you're not really ready for whatever outcome you want from your spell. If you are already doing everything you can and you're just using your spell as an extra boost, the universe will see that as you're already working really hard to accomplish what you want, and it will be a lot more giving. So you can use pre-existing spells, and a lot of times if you're just starting out in the practice as a beginner, using a pre-existing spell can kind of help you get a hang of the ropes. So you'll definitely want to find a reliable source from a book or online if you choose to cast a pre-existing spell. But what if you don't really have all of the items that this spell requires? Well, you can always tweak it. I do this all the time. If I don't have a certain crystal or a certain herb, there are many crystals and herbs that have similar magical properties that I can use as a substitution. For example, if you don't have a particular crystal that a spell is calling for, a clear quartz crystal is actually very, very versatile and can be used as a substitute for essentially any crystal. If you're casting a protection spell, for example, and it may call for juniper berries, but you don't have that on hand, maybe you have some basil in your kitchen. Basil also has protective properties, and so you can use that as a substitute. Also, if the spell requires for a certain color of candle that you do not have, you can substitute it with a white candle. You can even take a pin and carve the name of the color into your white candle if you wish to do so. Essentially, you can always tweak or adjust spells to suit your needs. You can even tweak it so that you don't need to use any of the magical items required. It's a good idea to familiarize yourself with the correspondences and magical properties of certain herbs, crystals, candles, and colors, and other magical items, because you never know what you may need to substitute out for in an existing spell spell to tweak it, or if you wish to create your own spell, you'll already know what items you can use that will help you cast your spell. So this leads me to my next point. how do you create and cast a spell? I personally actually prefer to create most of my own spells because I feel that it's a more powerful manifestation of my intents, and that will make the spell more powerful for me personally. So here are some tips to help you start creating your own spells. Before you get started, make sure that your intentions are clear. Ask yourself, why are you casting this spell? What is it for? What do you hope that your outcome will be? Once you have your purpose in mind, it's time to get busy. I always write out my spells just so that I have a reference point to go back to during my spell in case I forget something, and also so I have a record of that spell to perform it again at a later time, and I usually do. When you create the outline for your spell, it's essentially like a recipe. Once I know what the purpose of my spell will be, I can start to collect the items that I want to use for my spell. I will choose the best items and ingredients that I feel will help me boost my energies in the spell. I will write down an items needed section at the beginning of my spell. You can include here any tools that you'll need: candles, incense, crystals, herbs, tarot cards, essential oils, or whatever you want your spell to call for. And this also depends on what you want to do in your spell. Sometimes you will be writing something down with a parchment and paper and you'll burn it in a cauldron. So in that case, you'll want to make sure that you have a fire source, a cauldron that is fire safe, as well as a parchment and paper in the ingredients list of your spell. Next, I will write down the steps for performing my spell. And this is just a basic outline that I can follow. So I'll briefly go over with you guys the basic outline that I use for creating and casting my own spells. Number 1, I will always cleanse my space beforehand. So this means that not only do I want to cleanse out the energies in the area with some sage or Palo Santo or incense, but I also want to make sure that my area is clean. So if my area is cluttered and dirty, I find that I have a really difficult time focusing on my spell. Now, if you're doing your spell outside, that might be a different story, and you'll just want to cleanse the energy in the area. So once I have cleansed my space, I will cast my circle and invite any of my guardians, guides, and deities that I wish to have present with me. Next, I will take a moment, sit down, and meditate to ground out any excess energies. So at this time, I'll let go of any extra energy from stress that I've had during the day and find my focus. It is also really important to ground yourself before you cast a spell. I personally do this by visualizing roots growing from my body and down into the earth below me. This helps me center myself and find even more focus and be able to have an easier way to channel my energies while I'm doing my spell. Next, I will light my candles or my incense and begin my spell. If I'm doing a healing spell, for example, I will take a moment and visualize the energies of healing. So whether that's a bright white light for you, or if you choose to have colors that correspond with healing, such as blues and purples, you can essentially visualize your circle being filled up with these colors. I always like to use colors with my visualizations just because it makes it more vivid for me. You can also visualize anything else that reminds you of healing and brings you peace. Again, it's up to you how you feel and how you can best find your intent and focus. Next, if your spell calls for you to write something down on a parchment with a pen, or create a potion or a tincture or whatever it is you're essentially doing, you will begin to do so now. Next, you will want to say some sort of a chant for your spell. I will usually just write down whatever I feel will best represent my intentions and energies. A lot of witches will choose to have their chant rhyme. I personally am not the best at rhyming, but it's something I'm definitely working towards, and I hope to be able to get a little bit more artsy and creative with my chants in the future. But again, this is up to you. The main idea is just to write down what you feel will best represent your energies and intentions. Now, I will typically chant my spell while I'm doing something. So if my spell calls for me burning a parchment, then I will chant while I'm burning the parchment. Also, if you are creating a potion, an elixir, or a mojo bag, for example, you can choose to chant your spell while you're putting it together. Another method that you can use if you don't feel comfortable doing this, or if you have a hard time saying things and doing things at the same time, that's totally fine. If you wish, you can do your prep work beforehand, and then you can hold your hands over and focus your energies into the mojo bag, the potion, the elixir, whatever it may be, and chant your spell. I always use crystals with my spells just because that's a personal preference of mine. So usually what I will do next is I will take the crystal that I choose to use for this spell, and I will visualize infusing it with the energies of whatever my spell may be. So if I'm doing a healing spell, I will infuse my crystal and focus my energies into it with the purpose of healing. This way, after the spell is done, I can carry my crystal around and it can either help remind me of whatever it is I'm trying to accomplish, or it can help provide an extra boost if I need healing or prosperity, protection, or whatever else I have chosen to cast my spell for. After this, if you would like to just sit down and converse with your guardians, guides, and any deities that have been invited, you can take the time to do so now. It's often a good way to just wind down, relax, and get some good advice and maybe a different perspective. If you missed my last video, I did talk a lot more about guardians and guides, and so I'll go ahead and leave a card up here. Once I'm finished with my spell and conversing with my guardians, guides, or deities, if I have chosen to do so, I will take a moment again to meditate and ground out any excess energies that I may have. This is a really important step for me personally, and I think it's just a really important step in general because you are raising and working with a lot of energies that you might not necessarily be used to. So if I don't ground out my energies before I'm done with my spell, I'll often find myself being extremely shaky, and I just have so much energy that I really don't know what to do with it, and it makes me super jittery. Or on the other hand, I can find myself completely wiped out. So ground out your energies, take a moment and just let these excess energies just flow right out of you and down into the earth. Again, I will use a visualization technique to do so. One of the reasons why I like to use the visualization method of roots growing from my body and down into the earth is that it also creates a pathway for the energy to flow down and be returned into the earth. Once I feel that I've grounded out all of my excess energies, it is time to close my circle and thank my guardians and guides and deities for being present and offering their energies and magic to my spell. It's very important to show your respect for your deities and your guardians and guides by thanking them. You can also choose to leave them an offering either during your spell or prior or after, just to show that you are honoring and respecting them. So closing out your circle will essentially break down that protective barrier that you've created, and it will release the energies from your spell. If you are not sure about how to cast a circle, I actually did a video on that in Witchy Wonders episode 6. So again, I'll leave a card for you up here if you would like to check that out. And that's basically it. That's all that I have for today. Remember that you are the one creating this spell here. So do whatever feels most comfortable for you and get creative. You can do whatever you want to accomplish your spell. There's really no right or wrong way to go about it, as long as your energies and intentions are clear. Once again, thank you so much for tuning into my channel and watching my videos and for your love and support. I am truly grateful for you guys, and I hope that you guys have a fantastic day today. And as always, my social media information is down in the description box below, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. And until next time, the witch is out. Bye! But first, for a spell. Wait, that was cheesy. Oh well. Write that on a scale of 1 to 10, please. Comment down below. I'm such a lady. Such a lady. That's me. So it's... I think I've had too much coffee. Whew! Powerful manifestation. So the outline on a parchment and... You okay there? Yeah, I hear the dogs out there too. But we're filming right now. Can you hang on? Give me like 10-15 more minutes, okay? My dog is so distracting. I love him. I love him so much. Once I felt Heh. So I'll...